Hi, and welcome to Talk with Famous People. We begin today's episode here at the Carousel Apartments. 939 is the number, and it's in Arcadia, California. As you see, it's a quintessential example of what I would call the movie-themed apartment building movement. It includes a lot of tiki stuff. It includes stuff like this. It's like carnival themed, I guess. And it includes what you'd call East Coast rich themed, like the Kensington. And then it's got city type themed or cosmopolitan themed, like the Manhattan. We've got all sorts of stuff going on here, and you're gonna see a lot of it in just a minute, starting right now. Pow! Talking with famous people. Okay, so we begin our tour here at the Florentine, 915 Fairview, and you'll note that it appears to be constructed in a Venetian hanging gardens theme. It's a lovely, well-tended apartment complex. They've got these old world style sconces and lighting fixtures, and they've got that theme carried through the stairwells, and it's obviously very nicely and well tended. Next, let's look at this one, which is called the Kenwood, and I would call this an example of the old East Coast wealth theme, to the extent that that's a kind of movie, kind of the F. Scott Fitzgerald, but 1960s, early 1960s, mid-century. It's obviously a cool little place. Here's another example of the same sort of idea as the Manhattan. Not a lot of detail here for you, but I want to show you the sign and generally give you a sense of this sort of lattice work that they have going on here and the apparently cosmopolitan design of that. It's another building that I believe is unnamed. Now this one here, I've shown you these because of the numbering styles. This is one of the interesting factors of these old buildings, are these numbering styles. They're quite dramatic sometimes. They have a very distinct font. A lot of them have that cursive written out number instead of the numerical numbers, but these ones are examples of some big stylized numbers. On the same street, you will find an occasional small home, as you see here. The Arcadian. This is the first one on Arcadia Avenue coming up the street, and it's typical of this street. And you see again this lattice work here, and this one's called the Chalet. So we see a bit of the thematic diversity coming into play here. We've got golden palms and palm apartments. This is a common theme in amongst these Arcadia themed apartments, is the sort of tiki or tiki derivative themed, relating to the islands and tropical stuff and whatnot. And we have a few pictures here of the palm apartments, which gives me a chance to slow down a little bit. Here's another one that's unnamed but has some nice lattice work and such. The Mediterranean, well kept, broad, open front end, where you just have a lot of open space that gives it that sort of open Mediterranean feel, I guess. This one's a little bit more in the tiki variety, and I believe it's also unnamed, but worth taking a picture of. The Shalimar. This is interesting to me because my grandmother used to wear a perfume called Shalimar, and I think that word referred to something very cosmopolitan and elegant at one point. I took some time with the Rancho Anita here because this also reminded me of my grandmother. My grandmother's home was themed very much like this apartment complex here, with these steeply slanting roof things and that kind of curvy thing around the door. I don't know what you'd call that. Anyway, the theme continues over here, and you see it on the windows, those white things with the windows. And okay, so this one is called the Crest, and it's a little bit less well kept, perhaps. It's a little bit more rundown, but L'Orleans, the New Orleans themed one. We've got Arcadia Palms, another Palms example here. As we move up the street and away from Arcadia Avenue in Arcadia, eventually you cross the border and you enter into Pasadena. Now this is one of the last of the Arcadia ones here. Casa del Rey, it's a Mexican themed one. It's later. As you get later into the street, here you are in Pasadena. This one's called the Park Royale, but there's nothing very royal about it, and it's because it's not in Arcadia. Now, as you get back into Arcadia here on Sunset, this is the last one going into Temple City.
Hi, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. And I'm standing in front of the lovely Carousel Apartments here in Arcadia, California. I began and end my tour of the two streets of Arcadia with the movie-themed apartment buildings in front of the Carousel here because this is the place that inspired me to make this little video. I thought one day when I was driving home, one of Delilah's friends, and Delilah, she had me drop her friend off here, I was struck by what an insanely cool little place this is, and I was then taken to notice the other apartment buildings around here and how they tend to follow this movie-themed approach to architecture. So I went around today and I took a bunch of still photos, and I'm going to go back home. I'm going to make it into a video, and this part here will be the ending, and I think I'll probably chunk a little chunk of this out and make it the beginning as well. So thanks for watching Talking with Famous People.
Talking with famous people.